If I could comment on that, um, in a lot of projects that I did, you start off with hacking. Like you start off with just making do with the things that you have, and once the project gets bigger and bigger, you amass more documents and more data. So at a certain point, you will have to spend specific effort in starting to structure that. So starting to figure out what the structure is of all the things that you've been doing, and and try to incorporate that in a structure. So that would also work for a project like this. I think that it would be good if one or two people would start focusing on, okay, what is all the data that we collected, and how can we present that at this point? Like that, it's like an ongoing process that you have to do. Otherwise, it gets more and more chaotic. And I think that is a little bit of the of the danger at the moment, because especially for people that just come in come in from the outside and start working with this, then there are so much different things in different places that it's very hard to start. And probably even for you guys who've been working on this for a while, like, do you think Drupal has enough features to kind of support all the things that we want to do at the moment?
I think there's a limitation because obviously there are people working on development, but it's a limited amount of people. The suggestion that I just made in the chat is there are instances where there's services that are kind of too big to build from the ground up, but what we potentially could do if we can find the development time for it is use existing services and then use the APIs to pass it into the Drupal database. This might be a quick fix if we can do it. So say everybody uses Google Documents anyway. The problem is that Google Documents get lost and they're not centralized on the platform. Google has a very, very good API that would allow those things to be passed directly into wikis or posts and things like that. And this might just act as like a good surrogate. But I think we need to sketch that out as a technical requirement in order to make it happen and see if people have the time to put into it. So what I'm saying, Nadia, is so an API allows you to take the data from one place and put it in another place by writing like a script or something like that. So it would literally be when people are using Google Documents, because you can collaborate in real time, that stuff could then be, press a button and pass it directly onto the page, which makes sense in something like a community call. If we're writing something together, we don't have the facility to do that on the platform as of yet, but the time that it takes to then take that information from Google and put it on, it's about automating that stuff. So figuring out a couple of quick fixes like that, and the scripts probably exist out there already, and that would be an interesting thing to build. I would like there might even be a Drupal plugin to do that. But we need to do a scoping exercise around it. But I think maybe it's a separate conversation. I think that we've been having these kind of fragmented conversations on the platform, for example, talking about the landing strip and trying to create these solutions to user problems. And we need to kind of condense that into one place and maybe have a separate call about it. Because I can do the scoping exercise and set out what I think the technical requirements are. I can't build it.
Okay. Someone who would make a huge contribution. There is Casper Soren, who's like a Drupal fiend. He knows everything there is to know about Drupal. Yeah. Okay, so where did we land there? We decided, okay, we want to do this Twitter storm. We need an interface which aggregates all the hashtags. What we do need is one hashtag for each session and track.
Are we going to use a separate hashtag for each thing?
Well, we need a separate. I think we need a separate hashtag for each session.
Okay.
I think it's good to have a hashtag for each session, because then the discussion is fleshed out on the platform in the right place.
It's David. I'd like to pitch in on something you said earlier, Nadia, about too much passive observation and a bit more involvement, and also how to harvest the outcomes of meetings and give acknowledgements to people who do stuff. And it occurs to me that can happen in three ways. One is the way it's happening now, that people take on those responsibilities, and we give each other encouragement and positive feedback, and there may or may not be someone in any interaction that is actually gathering the information and putting it where others can read it. The other thing that could happen is that you have a team of people who take on the responsibility of harvesting and acknowledging things that happen. That's a bit more formal and a bit more contrived to do it, but it works in something called art of hosting. That's one of the ways that they work in facilitating any meeting. I think it's really important that what you said about acknowledging what people do, and it's very important that people will get more out of the interactions that we have if somebody is harvesting and then putting it up in an intriguing way, summarizing it in some way through mind maps or through singing it on a video, or doing something that helps stick in people's minds, and then they go away afterwards thinking, remembering the substance of what happened. You can just leave it free range and people will take it upon themselves, and that's natural, to acknowledge what others are doing, but there are so many rabbits running that it probably needs some dedicated team to, well, possibly it needs a dedicated team to keep an eye on it all and take the trouble to acknowledge what people are doing.